Record. Okay, so this time our topic focus on high potential identification and leadership pipeline in the civil service. No, high potential identification and leadership pipeline, development care, critical strategies for sustaining effective governance in the civil service. As government institutions face challenges such as an aging workforce, leadership turnover, increasing service demands, no, and rapid policy shifts, identifying employees with leadership potential early, strong or early becomes essential. Uh, High potential employees are those who consistently demonstrate strong performance, learning agility, values alignment, and the capacity no, to assume higher responsibility in the future. Because in our country, or specifically in civil service, building a leadership pipeline support continuity, no, meritocracy, and institutional stability. It ensures that future leaders not selected based solely on tenure or availability, but on demonstrated competence and readiness. When aligned with competency frameworks, no, performance system and leadership development programs, high potential identification help agencies prepare capable leaders who can sustain reforms, deliver quality performance, or deliver public services, no, quality public service, and uphold public trust. So this time, no, we will give the presenter sufficient time, no, to discuss the concept, the criteria, the tools, no, and practical approaches used in identifying high potential employees and building leadership pipelines in the civil service. The presenter will also share examples, no, challenges, and best practices on how the agencies, no, can systematically develop future leaders while maintaining fairness, transparency, and alignment with civil service rules. Go ahead po.
All right, thank you. Dr. Marmelo Abante, Dean of Graduate Programs and our instructor, and dear classmates of MPA 1Y2-14, sirs and moms, good morning. So let me begin. Sorry. All right, so let me start by quoting not only a campaign of civil service, but very apt and applicable with my topic and our topics for that matter. So let me quote them. Gawing lingkod bayani ang bawat kawani. So for my introduction rationale, okay, apologies sir, saglit lang. Okay, apologies, nagpe-play po yung recording kasi hindi ko matanggal. Anyway, very quickly, so context of my report, let me start by highlighting a few things. One is the Philippine Service context, which is basically the Republic Act 2260 Civil Service Act. Actually, this covers most of our reports, but just for basis or reference. So, basically, the workforce is characterized by career, non-career, and contractual personnel. Uh, Emphasis on merit and fitness. And of course, in terms of ongoing reforms, there's the PDP or Philippine Development Plan and Public Sector Transformation Roadmap. So in essence, advanced HRM in the Philippine context, at least especially in civil service, must have the following, no? The legal frameworks, the political realities, and the reform imperatives. So for the context of advanced HRM, let me start by sharing HRM has evolved. Typically before it's more of personal management. As to now, it is really more of a holistic approach, which is strategic human capital. So both in government and private sectors, it is now viewed as a driver of one, institutional performance, two is reform, and three, of course, is the much needed sustainability. For public ad, effective HRM is critical to the following: continuity, service delivery improvement, strengthening of the governance and accountability, and consistent with the one above, support on the reforms, including but not limited to digital innovation. So before I begin with the main topic, so why these topics matter? So firstly, there's aging workforce and retirement waves in civil service. Plus, with the advent of technology, syempre nandiyan yung complexity of the digital governance, climate infrastructure, and social protection. Another would be there's an actual need for future-ready leaders, not just technically competent employees. So there may be a lot of technically sound employees, but are they really ready for towards evidence-based, competency-driven HR systems, which will form part of my part two report later. So for the main part of my part one report, let me lay down the Philippine policy institutional setting. So we have firstly the CSC, which is actually the main one. It sets policies, competency frameworks, and standards. Two is the CESB or Career Executive Service Board, which practically manages the CES. And then we have the Development Academy of the Philippines, which is primarily intended for L&D. And then, of course, we have the standard or the, by default, the agency HR offices of the bureaus, agencies, and the like. So for the hypo identification in the Philippines, it must align with the following. There's the SPMS or Strategic Performance Management System. Another is the Competency-Based Recruitment and Qualification Standards or QS. And essentially, the eligibility and executive assessment requirements. So later on, I'll touch more on that and the details. So let us first define high potential employees. So among other things, let me highlight a few. Uh, One, of course, there's performance, strong performance at that. Second is there's leadership capacity, meaning he or she goes the extra mile beyond the current role. And then there's the much needed agility, adaptability, and public service values. The public service values will come in later also on the public service motivation. And then another is that the potential to assume leadership in the midterm or far future. And at least in our setting, it must be balanced among other things, meritocracy, equity, and transparency. So that's our main definition for hypo before I proceed with the main topic. So why hypo identification is critical? Number one, it ensures succession readiness. So meaning if there are available or vacant senior and technical leadership roles, uh, you always have someone in place already, or at least someone you are ready to place there in. Another is it reduces disruption from leadership vacancies or otherwise known as leadership vacuums. Because from time to time, of course, with the concern that I shared earlier, aging workforce, so definitely there are those who are retiring or even resigning or transferring to the private sector. So you will be able to reduce that disruption if you are able to identify the hypo. Another thing is it supports institutional memory and policy continuity because by default, of course, there are certain traditions and identifications or shall you say perceptions no across and among agencies or departments. So at least you have to maintain that and parang yung culture fit nandun din no for certain leaders. And most importantly, it should align with the national development goals. So because in the micro level, it is your department, bureau, or agency, but in the bigger realm of things, you have to be aligned with the national development goals of the national government agency. So since we already identified what is a high potential employee and why is it critical, so let's now see naman the challenges no in the civil service hypo identification. So I've listed here at least five things. First is there's the over-reliance on seniority and tenure, which is common practice because traditionally this is the default template naman no. The more senior or tenured you are, parang nakaabang ka, no? Or you're favored. And then another is the reality of political influence and patronage risk. One more is the limited performance differentiation. And then another thing that comes to play is weak leadership assessment mechanisms. In fact, in some, no, there are really absence of mechanisms for leadership assessment. And five, which is also common, is the cultural resistance, which is, as with everything, no, change is always resisted naman more often than not. So next is how do we look at the evidence-based hypo-identification, at least in our Philippine civil service context? So here we've listed four pillars. So we call it four principles, both grounded on the CSC and CESB. First part or the first principle is performance. Second is leadership potential. Three is behavioral and ethical standards. And four, the public service motivation that I was referring to a while ago. So essentially, I'll breeze through the next slide because nandun yung mas breakdown niya. So the four principles that I've mentioned, or I mean the four principles that CSC and CSB are ini-aim niya to be based on that or grounded for, no? It means if you're able to attain or look at that, you have that, that's a robust hypo framework. So to further explain each item earlier, so one is performance. So obviously you have to have superior performance over time, sustained yung performance mo, the results aligned with agency mandates, because at the end of the day, you cannot perform just on your own or be an island. Two is your potential, no? So the ability and problem solving should be there, the agility and adaptability, and of course the strategic and systems thinking. And three, on the leadership behavior, of course, apart from the leadership behavior per se, you have to have the ethics, no, the ethical judgment and integrity, which is of paramount importance, and then the stakeholder management, and then team leadership and collaboration. And last of which is of equal importance as well, is you have to have that public service motivation. Is there a commitment to public interest? Kapag may check yan, you have that already. And then, of course, the accountability and stewardship. So having mentioned those tools, principles, and the other details earlier, so what are the tools actually for hypo identification? So among other things, we've summarized here at least five. So competency-based assessments, which is papasok yan later dun sa part ng competency-based report ko. And then the 360-degree feedback, structured talent review panels. I also included here the assessment centers. There are offices which are into this as advanced. No? They actually allot budget and effort towards this, and the usual leadership potential tools. So let me now go to the second part of my first report. So this is the leadership pipeline in the Philippine Civil Service. So with our Philippine Civil Service, we generally follow at least, I'll enumerate three main pillars, which is the first level position. So these are for the clerical, technical, and professional staff. The second level positions for supervisors, division chiefs, and regional directors. And the third level positions, which are for assistant secretaries or ASECs, USECs, and bureau directors. So just to summarize this slide, so each level is practically governed, no, by the following. One, distinct eligibility. two, competency, and three, the appointment rules for each level as you ascend to the to the next level. So for the concept of leadership pipeline, uh, there must be a systematic process, no, for the leadership pipeline. It ensures continuous supply of quality leaders or qualified leaders rather, smooth transitions across leadership levels because for every movement, no, there's a domino effect on the other sections or departments, and then there must be the alignment between leadership capability and the organizational complexity because sometimes it doesn't stop with the leadership capability. You have to look at the bigger picture of the organization because in some there's complexity in terms of the structure, in terms of the function, including but not limited to the overlaps. So for the leadership pipeline levels, no, inulit ko lang, no, yan yung summary nung kanina. So first level, second level, and the third level. So competencies, mindset, and responsibilities, that's where it varies. No? So as you aspire or go for the higher roles, of course, it entails much more of each of these level requirements. So what are the core elements of effective leadership pipeline? First off, the clear role transition. So usually you will shift from technical expertise to people and system leadership. So much like with private sector, more ang technical yung role mo pag individual contributor ka or mas up and coming pa lang yung role mo. Syempre, that's the politically correct term because sa iba they call it as junior. And then you transition to a more leadership role. So nagkakaroon ka ng leadership there would be leadership needs because mag-handle ka na ng mga tao or departments. Another core element is the competency framework alignment. So, naka-map out naman yan per level, similarly with the private sector. And then three is the targeted development interventions. So, dito papasok yung mga uh, you undergo ano no further training, so mostly L&D, no, so you can actually be enrolled to academies and then their executive education for each role that requires additional education. And then to a certain degree, which is a good part of sort of an OJT, is yung stretch assignments and rotations because you get more exposed to other facets of the role or the office, so you get to be more familiar to better prepare you. So actually, it's another core element. Yeah. And then the succession planning, which is this is where you identify the critical positions. No, so just to summarize this part, I think ito yung tinatawag nating ready now, ready soon, and ready later pool. So essentially tatlo yan no? Ready now, ready soon, ready later. So in each RMO of any government office, ideally no, may pool nung tatlong category or classification yan. So for the leadership development interventions, very much related to the sa third part kanina yung sa interventions. You have the DAP programs. So these are mostly for middle managers uh, and then the public. Well, I'm not too familiar with PMDP. And then this, of course, the CSC LND, nandyan yung standard na development courses both on the supervisory part and the executive uh, leader program. They always update that naman. And then the Career Executive Service Performance Evaluation System or the CESPES or CESPS. And then you also have the last part which I shared in the earlier slide, you have the cross-posting and secondment. So ito yung parang practically technical term for ano yung medyo sinashadowing ka na and then niro-rotate ka no, for further exposure and preparedness nga. So it could be regional, interagency, and project-based assignments. So depending on the needs or the actual pattern that your respective offices subscribes to or adapts to. Right. So very quickly, the intervention support leadership succession, no? It entails mentoring and coaching programs. There are cross-agency intergovernment assignments. And then you have actual projects tied to real reform. So para hindi lahat theoretical lang. So they are also given kumbaga practical application. And then I think another important thing is yung exposure no to national and international best practices because you cannot really limit yourself with what is very organic to your organization lang because you won't grow and you will actually not be ready for for advancement if walang exposure to this extent. All right, very quickly, governance of the leadership pipeline. So to summarize, three pillars. So there's the central authority, no, the CSC and the HRMO of your respective offices, and then the talent councils and ethics oversight. Sa iba parang AKA kung may panel, no, na create or ongoing. And then of course the data-driven and merit-based decision making. So this is where meritocracy comes to play. So that ends the first part. So before I proceed with the second part, I understand Dean might be able to introduce first the second part. Please, Dean, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, no? What's this? The discussion actually about the first topic, no, related to high potential identification. High potential identification focuses on recognizing employees who consistently demonstrate strong performance, no, leadership behaviors, and growth potential. In the civil service, this often starts with performance data such as IPCR ratings, no, competency assessment, and behavioral indicators. Let's say, for example, an employee, no, who consistently earns very satisfactory and outstanding IPCR ratings and successfully leads inter office projects may be identified as a high potential candidate for supervisory roles. The for the competency based human resource system, no, uh, this will be the first topic, no, the competency based, or the second topic.
Second po, sir, yung competency
Okay,
based.
okay, thank you. Okay, so a leadership pipeline, no, provides a structured pathway for developing this high potential employees turnover over time, no. Rather than waiting for vacancies to arise, no, the agencies deliberately prepare potential successors through training, no, mentoring, job rotation, and acting assignments. For instance, a senior administrative officer identified as high potential may be assigned as officer in charge, no, of a unit during the division chief's leave to gain real leadership exposure. The importance of aligning high potential identification with competency-based frameworks, no, uh, our country or the government agencies in the Philippines, leadership competencies such as strategic thinking, people management, no, communication, and ethical decision making are critical. An example is enrolling identified high potential staff in CSC accredited leadership and management programs to address competency gaps and prepare them for higher roles. No, another key highlight is the role of fairness, no, and transparency in the process. No, high potential identification must be evidence based to avoid perception of favoritism. No, using objective tools such as performance trends, so competency assessment, panel interviews, and documented development plans help ensure credibility. Let's say, for example, no, an agency may require that inclusion in the leadership pool be supported by at least 2 consecutive years of strong performance result and supervisor recommendation. So therefore, high potential identification leadership pipeline development strengthens succession planning in the civil service. No? Through systematically prepare future leaders, syempre, our government agencies reduce leadership risk, and we can ensure continuity of programs, and we can improve organizational resilience. So when combined with performance management and learning systems, these practices help build professional, capable, and future-ready public sector that can respond effectively to evolving needs of a citizen. Ano po? May question ba tayo? Wala naman. Okay.